Story 1. It really has nothing to do with being sad all the time. Being completely numb and unmotivated is more accurate. You lose the ability to enjoy or want anything in life, and even feeling sadness is often difficult. Imagine being bored with everything and unable to feel joy or motivation. There may be nothing you can do about it for a long time. Recovery is a messy process, and many never fully recover. Story 2. Unexplained fatigue. Bottled up rage and a hair-trigger temper. Inability to concentrate and poor grades if you are in school. Poor memory. Story 3. What many people do not understand about depression is that people who are depressed can still laugh, work, keep themselves clean, and appear to live functional lives. Discouragement, crying, grieving, and everything that comes with depression can be carried in silence. 3 days ago, I planned to end my life. The only person who found out was the gym coach, who casually asked if something was wrong because I did not go inside to exercise and instead spent 3 hours sitting outside, mentally saying goodbye to my mother. I collapsed on his chest. He was the only one who knew about my plans, because everyone else believes I am functional, charismatic, kind, and happy. If you are thinking about harming yourself, please seek help now. If you are in the United States, call or text 988 to reach the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. If you are elsewhere, contact your local emergency number or a local crisis line. If you are in immediate danger, call emergency services. Story 4. You don't want to answer anything, such as phone or FaceTime calls. Not even from your friends and family. Story 5. I forget chunks of my life. I get seasonal affective disorder every winter, but this past winter was particularly bad. I barely remember July and August. Story 6. Hygiene can slip, not just skipping showers, but also neglecting simple things like brushing your teeth. No one talks about it because it's often seen as disgusting, but it's a very real symptom and can cause problems. Story 7. Sitting all day in the same chair and doing nothing is normal. Story 8. Angry outbursts occur when I have a short fuse and low tolerance for things going wrong, or when I hold emotions in until the dam breaks. When I stopped my usual antidepressants during pregnancy, this was the first symptom to return. Story 9. The opposite of depression is not happiness. It is vitality. Story 10. The inability to feel certain emotions. They talk about a lack of pleasure in activities you once loved. Only someone who is depressed might stop a sexual act halfway and not experience arousal or any physical response, because there is nothing there. I cannot even cry, because crying while depressed is nearly impossible for me. Pure apathy. I do not know about you, but I would rather cry my eyes out than feel nothing at all. Story 11. You experience body aches. Either you are not able to eat or you eat uncontrollably. The smallest task leaves you feeling absolutely drained. There always seems to be an impossible task. You feel sexless and almost inhuman. You feel the worst you have ever felt, and most people cannot understand or relate, so you give up trying to explain. As you start to get better, you likely go through a period when you feel as if you are in a breakup and just want to cry but cannot. Story 12. Staying in bed all day, not caring about hygiene and experiencing brain fog. Story 13. When I was mourning, what stood out most was that there was nothing at all my loved ones could do to help me. The only thing that would have helped was to have the person I lost back, which I could not have. Family surrounded me and tried to be there for me, but it did nothing to ease the pain. They talked to me, saw me, knew I slept a little, so they assumed I was okay or getting better, but none of them understood that 6 months had gone by and I had not felt any better. All I kept thinking was that I did not want to be the one left behind. I would rather be the one others were mourning. Being here when they are gone is my worst nightmare. Story 14. You can be feeling good, enjoying a funny movie, or sitting outside and appreciating nature. Then all of a sudden something leaps on you and you feel heavy. It is frustrating because it can happen seconds after you think, "What a nice day." Then you think, "Oh no, not again." And continuing what you were doing becomes the most draining exercise. You can be feeling great, and then it is as if something turns off the light and takes it all away. Story 15. I am one of those people who love their jobs a little too much. I live for Mondays because work gives me something to focus on besides loneliness and sadness. Weekends used to be hard for me. I hated Fridays. Story 16. For me, it was overwhelming. I appeared happy, but I was not. When I was busy, I could distract myself, but in any quiet moment, it felt like I was going to explode. I lost interest in the things I loved. I would start a project and immediately hate it. Not in my usual autism and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder pattern of simply forgetting about it, but I would dread finishing it. I looked forward to sleeping for as long as possible, but when bedtime came, I was afraid to sleep because my nightmares were terrible and always involved a loved one dying horribly. I put in my earbuds to listen to music, which I usually love, but it no longer helped. It lost its spark, stopped giving me goosebumps, and I stopped caring about music theory and lyrics. Luckily, I feel much better after graduating, therapy, and medication, but I think about that time a lot. Story 17. For me, it's a feeling of total anhedonia, a draining of color and optimism. My friends don't really matter and probably don't care about me. They do. My partner would be better off without me and thinks I'm nothing but dead weight. No, they do not. My hobbies are a waste of time and my talents are useless party tricks. No, they are not. It sounds like a victim mindset, and functionally it is, but these are the sticky notes posted all around my mind's eye. If I choose not to believe it, my mind will cherry-pick instances that cast doubt on me. Outwardly, if you run into me at work or in town, you would never know it. Loudest in the room, happy as a clam. It is a survival skill. At its worst, I wake up with my eyes welled up with tears. Not for anything immediate. I just miss so many people and feel it all at once. At the gym, if I can even force myself to go, I drop the weight halfway through the set, thinking, what's the point anymore? At home, in reflection, I can name all the wonderful things in my life and the fortune I have to be alive, but I can't feel it. And that is where it gets really dark. Depression has stolen the best years of my life and was a major factor in losing the love of my life. People who do not have depression cannot contextualize it, and I do not blame them. It looks like laziness. It sounds like low self-esteem, but it is not founded on fact. It is just a feeling, a headache you cannot shake, a thick fog that never totally clears. The thing that makes it so difficult to deal with is that it is never all or nothing. Creeps in and fades out, making it hard for the beholder to know who or what is speaking for me today. Story 18. Lashing out at others, cutting yourself off from friends and family, and not enjoying your hobbies or much of anything. Story 19. I've said it before and I'll say it again, the boredom. One of the major problems with depression is that it makes everything so dull because your brain has essentially turned off your emotions. Exciting video games become boring and tedious. Creative projects feel excruciatingly difficult and unsatisfying. Beloved books seem dull, and your favorite TV show feels terrible. It turns life into a slog that feels unbearable to endure, and you find yourself chasing anything that will relieve the boredom. Story 20. People who never seem to have a bad day are emotional chameleons, mimicking their surroundings, but you can see it in their eyes. Story 21. Everything I do feels empty. I can enjoy things for a few moments and then it is like my whole world becomes gray again. I have to force myself to eat and to get out of bed. I used to come home from work and sleep all day and night, then repeat the next day. I might do basic hygiene. I always made myself move around. Otherwise, I would sleep more than 24 hours if I allowed myself to. Story 22. I feel apathy and shame, thinking I am the only one sinking to this low level of functioning. Story 23. Sometimes it causes inflammation and makes my whole body hurt. Story 24. Irritability over small things that might not bother someone else and poor memory. Story 25. Bedridden. I will sleep all day if the depression is too much. Lack of appetite. Some days I eat, some days I do not. I do not really get hunger pangs and only feel irritable from hunger if something is off with my gut or blood sugar. Eating sometimes feels like a chore. I drink a lot of water, which I think helps curb the hunger. Lack of interest in hobbies. I used to play drums religiously and loved it. Nowadays I could not care less. I used to love bowling, Now I just cheer for my dad. I used to enjoy photography, but I barely take photos, even with my phone. There are many things I used to love, but now I feel too rusty to enjoy them again. Seclusion and introversion. I am very much a recluse and often avoid people when I am not working. People generally come off as too risky and flaky for me to feel like I can truly be myself around them. When I am around people, I mask how I really feel and ask constant questions about them so I do not have to be asked questions. One friend has caught on and calls me out, but she has known me for almost 2 decades. If you do not know me well, you probably will not notice. To be real, I prefer it that way. Overloading myself with work. I work a full-time job during the week and take a per diem job on the weekend. I like having only one day off and staying busy so the depression does not get to me as badly. Lack of libido. There are weeks and sometimes months when I do not masturbate or desire sex. I have a friend with benefits, but honestly for the past few months I have only hooked up with him to help him feel special. I have not felt truly sexy or desired in years. I miss intimacy more than sex, if that makes sense. Drug use. I smoke marijuana a few times per month and use gummies a few times a week. I do not drink or use hard drugs. It is easier for me to hide being high because I work from home. Story 26. Irritability is the feeling that the world does not understand you, that family and friends do not understand you, that things do not get better, and that nothing goes your way. Story 27. Many people with depression appear outwardly functional and do not spend every day in bed crying. They smile and have full-time jobs. You would never know. Story 28. Just because someone cannot do simple tasks such as cleaning themselves does not mean they are lazy. Depression is not sadness but a lack of motivation to do anything. They often feel numb and drained, without the energy to recharge. Inside, they want to escape the torture. That is the difference between laziness and depression. One is a choice, the other is not. Story 29. I am in a long-distance relationship and I am suffering a major bout of depression because we just spent a week together and I had to return to work. My main issues: 1. Sleep. My bed feels like my whole life. 2. No appetite and no motivation to eat. 3. Feeling numb. 4. Not yet, but as a customer success manager I expect someone will yell at me and I fear I will lose control. Story 30. Sometimes it's the ones who look the happiest and go out of their way to make others happy who are suffering. Story 31. Man, all of this hits hard and is so relatable. I lost my mom in February, 2 days before my birthday. I watched her die. I have not been the same since. I have experienced at least some of what was discussed. It is a struggle. Story 32. Your back or muscles hurt, but you cannot be bothered to stretch. Story 33. I slept for extremely long hours. I remember that, at the peak of my depressive episodes, I would sleep 12 or more hours a day. I did not want to be alive, and sleep felt like microdosing non-existence. My life was difficult, so the best I could hope for was a pleasant dream. Being awake meant being reminded of all the pain and sadness. Story 34. I sleep so much. It is not laziness. I am tired all the time when I am having an episode. I could easily sleep until 2 to 3 p.m. on weekends, go to bed at 8 p.m., and still feel exhausted. Story 35. I'm sorry you're feeling so exhausted and overwhelmed. If you are in immediate danger, please contact local emergency services or a crisis line now. In the United States, call or text 988. It feels like my bones are tired and my bed has gravity. I try to be functional, but I end up calling in sick even though I am already on thin ice at work. Getting through the day is so hard. I had a couple of lows where, to escape thoughts that I was worthless and that everyone would be better off without me, I woke up just long enough to use the bathroom and get some water or food, then took a dose of diphenhydramine to put myself back to sleep. Sometimes I do the less bad thing to avoid doing the big bad thing. Story 36. Clinical madness. It leads to deciding not to take anything seriously at all. Everything becomes a joke, even the things you actually want to care about. Personal hygiene, lifelong relationships, you name it. It's the worst symptom, in my opinion, because the seriousness of suicide starts to dwindle and it becomes a more viable option. Story 37. I don't think about the future because I won't be here for it. While most people care about their retirement and old age, I just look forward to dying. I often wonder what life is like for people who don't have depression. What would it be like to enjoy life and not just go through the motions? I'm sorry you're feeling this way. Are you thinking about harming yourself right now? If you are in immediate danger, please call your local emergency number. If you are in the United States, you can call or text 988 or text home to 741,741 for crisis support. If you are outside the United States, please contact your local emergency services or find your local crisis hotline. If you want, I can help find resources or talk more. Story 38. The feeling of spending 24 hours a day, 7 days a week with someone you genuinely hate. Story 39. People think if you are depressed, you just sleep. I am so depressed right now that I could kill myself. Cannot sleep. I am too depressed to relax, let alone fall asleep. I wish I could sleep it off. Story 40. For me, it was numbness and a feeling of a massive weight on my body all day, from the moment I woke up. Story 41. People who seek dopamine to self-medicate turn to shopping, overeating, drinking, or sexual activity. None of these work for long, and they end up seeking more or hating themselves. Story 42. Psychosis causes such severe depression that you begin hallucinating. It is terrifying. Story 43. Feeling like your thoughts are swimming through peanut butter. You know you need to act but are unable because your thoughts are stuck. Those thoughts say, I am a loser. I am not good enough. I remember when someone made me feel horrible, and that is all I will think about for the rest of the day. If I died, I would not have to feel this way anymore. Slowed thinking and poor concentration. Your brain is literally its own worst enemy. Story 44. A lack of hope. Most people can see the light at the end of the tunnel. Even if that light is an oncoming train, they can see it. Depressed people cannot see the light. They only experience darkness that deepens with no way out. For me, depression developed gradually over years, so I did not notice the changes. I had been depressed for years and believed I was normal. I thought everyone felt the way I did. Story 45. If someone is acting really happy and that is super out of character, that is worrisome because it is such a drastic change in behavior. Depression is not just sadness. It is a change in a person. Someone doing this might be masking and overexerting themselves to appear normal. Story 46. I feel hopeless. Nothing ever goes my way, and everything that can go wrong does. Story 47. Yes, I experienced memory loss. I am currently undergoing electroconvulsive therapy. I was so scared of memory loss side effects because I felt like my memory was already so bad. It turns out it was the depression all along, and if anything, electroconvulsive therapy is improving my memory. Story 48. Memory problems. I am missing maybe the last 4 years. Story 49. Losing the spark for the things you love. For me, it's watching movies at the cinema. That's when I know I'm not okay, even if I look perfectly fine on the outside. Story 50. Sometimes I wish to get sick or injured just so I have an excuse to stay in bed and avoid the world. I am not suicidal and I have never self-harmed, but sometimes I wish I would fall in a way that breaks an arm or a leg so I could stay home alone and be my numb, apathetic self without having to pretend I feel anything. I am sorry you are feeling this way. Wanting a break from life can feel overwhelming and painful. If you are in immediate danger, please call your local emergency number now. If you are in the United States, you can call or text 988 for crisis support. If you are elsewhere, please contact your local emergency services or a local crisis line. Consider reaching out to someone you trust or a mental health professional for support. If you want, I can help you talk through what you are feeling or find options for help. Story 51. Being too depressed to care about getting help. Anhedonia is a loss of interest or pleasure in activities. Story 52. I was exhausted and felt pain from sitting or lying too long. My hip and knee were so bad that I had a limp. A poor diet also caused me to use the bathroom up to 20 times a day. Story 53. Poor hygiene. My house is a mess. I am perfectly happy to sit on the couch and rot. I am short-tempered and unwilling or unable to fake it until I make it at work. I do not have the energy to smile and pretend everything is okay. I received a tongue lashing on Friday because I do not collaborate. I do not have the energy to play politics. That has been a real struggle for me. I also want to sleep all the time. Story 54. I also felt exhausted. I was out of breath getting my laundry from my apartment downstairs and taking out the trash. It was embarrassing. Story 55. Not being able to get fully excited about things is painful. Dulled or numbed emotions are debilitating because you cannot do things that would make you happy when you do not feel the emotion. Story 56. I cannot enjoy doing anything. Even doing nothing is exhausting. I do not want to go to the gym, play video games, do the chores I need to do, or lie in bed and watch TikTok. Sometimes I have no idea what to do with myself because I do not want to do anything, not even exist. Story 57. Unable to sleep for days, even with strong prescribed sleeping aids. Loss of appetite, digestive problems, and unintended weight loss. Severe anxiety and an intense fear of being alone. Story 58. Anxiety and sadness about losing joy in activities you once enjoyed. Made worse when you recognize you may be slipping into an episode. Difficulty recognizing when someone is trying to help, combined with the belief that help will not make a difference, causing you to push people away even when you do not mean to, forgetting past positives and failing to anticipate good things to come while magnifying minor negatives. Pessimism becoming your default outlook, even when you are not depressed. A fake smile you show to everyone, which people who know you can see through. Saying you are fine, feeling numb, and not knowing how to describe your emotions even if you do feel them. Being unable to imagine your life beyond tomorrow. These are things I noticed only in hindsight, after a niche YouTuber discussed them. Many of these topics did not arise in my therapy sessions or in general conversations about mental health until recently. Story 59. The ability to focus, concentrate, or coordinate your actions or belongings is rarely discussed. I am not talking about just a loss of interest, but literally not realizing you stopped halfway through a task, only brushing one side of your teeth or hair, putting random things in the wrong drawers, or wearing mismatched clothes without realizing it. When I was very depressed during the coronavirus disease 2019 lockdowns, I put some soup in a pot but could not figure out how to get it hot, so I put the whole metal pot in the microwave. I watched it with a vague sense that something was off, but I could not understand what it might be. I panicked and pulled it out after seeing the first spark. That scared me so much that I called to make an appointment with my primary care provider the next day to look for resources. Story 60. Forgetting things, people, and places. Feeling like you are the only one this lonely. Not being able to open yourself to anyone because it is too much work. Story 61. I experienced chronic boredom. I stopped many hobbies because they no longer brought me joy. Story 62. You can still function at your job and in life, and yet you don't feel the highs and lows. Nobody knows. You pretend to feel, laugh at a coworker's joke, and watch your child do something silly. You know you are supposed to react, so you do. Oh, look at him run. My goodness, he's the best and so bubbly. Internally, if it were just me, I wouldn't have thought or said anything. It would have been just another moment. When you start to know act and time when you're supposed to react instead of reacting authentically, it is a solid depressive state. Story 63. People often give away their belongings or appear unusually happy to others before they end their lives. Becoming quiet about life is another sign. Story 64. Memory problems can make your memories feel out of order. Things may not be sorted correctly, and you may have difficulty remembering many things independently. Everything can seem to melt together when every day is difficult. It is your brain's way of protecting you. Story 65. Even though we went to the restaurant we used to prefer, we didn't enjoy it and were just too tired. Story 66. Not sad, just empty. I feel nothing about things I used to love. Story 67. When you keep posting on social media that you are happy in order to get likes and views, you may be pretending your life is happy while the reality is completely different. Story 68. Appearing happy but actually feeling lost and alone, pretending to be okay. Story 69. Rumination and introspection, unproductive. A normal feeling taken to the extreme by a brain that is out of balance. What an unaware observer may mistake for maturity and serenity can in fact be a down period. Story 70. Apparently, anger is typically directed at the people closest to you who care most about you. Story 71. Fatigue, brain fog, and body aches. I miss the vitality and energy I had before I turned 13, when my major depression began. Story 72. Things are different for everyone. For me, I was probably even more strict about having a routine, making sure I got to my 8 a.m. classes, studying like crazy, going to events, and so on. This is probably the opposite of what you hear about many people with depression. Having obligations was how I forced myself out of bed in the morning, and being around other people rather than being alone in my room was always helpful. I am so thankful I kept pushing through even when it was hard, because after I got through 2 awful episodes 10 years ago, I have never been severely depressed again. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.